This is a review video for the Unit 4 exam. So I'm going to go over several different questions that you're going to see on the exam. The first being it's going to ask you what a certain Roman numeral would be in a certain key. For example, let's say that I have a question that asks for what a 4 is in the key of C minor. So what you're going to do is the Roman numeral depends on the scale degree that that chord is built off of. So since it's 4, that means that it's built off of the 4th scale degree. So first thing we want to do is put the C minor key signature on here, which would be 3 flats, so B, E, A. And then we have to figure out what the 4th scale degree is. So if we start on C, we go 1, 2, 3, 4. F is the 4th scale degree. Then all you have to do is build a snowman. So that means that your notes would be F, A flat because of the key signature, C. And that would be the answer. There's two different types of answers for this. There's one that asks you what the notes are in the chord, and then there's one that asks you what the chord is. So if it were to ask what the notes are, obviously you would click on F, A flat, and C. And if it asks you what the kind of chord is, you're going to say that it's an F chord because the name of the chord depends on the root. So it's going to be an F chord, and you would say that it's minor. And an easy cheat for this is if it's lowercase, it means that it's minor. If it's uppercase, it means that it's major. And if there's a little degree symbol, it means that it's diminished. So when you're going through, all you have to do for labeling the chord is you put the letter name of the bottom letter of the root, and then you put whether it's minor, major, or diminished depending on what the Roman numeral looks like. Let me show you another example. There's going to be one that says what are the notes in a dominant 7th chord in B major. So in B major, we need to figure out what our dominant would be. Now if you go back to scale degrees and names of scale degrees, the dominant was the 5th scale degree. So that means that if we're asking for a dominant 7th, we're going to start on the 5th scale degree. First thing we're going to do is put our accidentals in. So in B major we have 5 sharps. So that would be F, C, G, D, and A. Now we need to put our chord in. So it asked for a dominant chord. So we're going to start on 5. Our first scale degree would be B, which was right here. So we're going to count up 5 from B. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Land on F again. Now, we're going to fill in our snowman, and then it asks for a dominant 7th. So that means that it's going to have 4 notes because it's a 7th chord. So all you do is add another circle at the top. Remember, it's every other. And then since it asks for the notes in that chord, we're going to write out the notes. So remember that your key signature is always there. So here we have F sharp, A sharp, C sharp, and E. Now a dominant 7th, which looks like this in Roman numeral, remember it means that we have a major minor 7. So let's check this. F sharp to A sharp is a major 3rd. A sharp to C sharp is a minor 3rd. So far we have a major chord. Then C sharp to E is a minor third. So we do have a major chord with a minor third on top. Also, if it were to be the other question that says label the chord that is a 5/7 in B major, then you would build it and you would see that it starts on F sharp. So it would be F sharp major. So remember that if you see this 5 right here, Roman numeral, it's capitalized, which means that it's going to be major. And then you just say what the root is. Let's do one more final example. Let's say it's asking for the notes that are in a 2 diminished chord in D minor. So first we're going to figure out our key signature for D minor. Going back to this, we have 3 half steps that we have to go up in order to figure out the relative major. So 1, 2, 3, that's F major. In F major, we have 1 flat. So now this is the key signature for D minor. Then since it's a 2, that means that we're starting on the 2nd scale degree. So this is D. We're going to start on E because that's 2. So 1, 2, and then build our snowman from there. So the notes for this would be E, G, and then B flat because of the key signature. Let's check and make sure this is a diminished chord. We have E to G, which is a minor third, and G to B flat, which is also a minor third. So a minor third plus a minor third is diminished. Now, there's also going to be questions that ask about inversions for 7 chords. And just real quickly, we'll go over that. So obviously, if it's in root position, let's say we have an F7 chord. If it's in root position, obviously that means that they're all stacked on top of each other. Once we put the root up on the top, it's first inversion. Once we put the root as one of the middle notes as the third note, it's second inversion. And once the 7th of the chord is on the bottom and the root is the second note, it's third inversion. So remember that with 7th chords, there's 4 notes, so there's 4 different options for inversions, rather than the 3 that there are for just triads. So let's do an example really quickly of, let's say that you are given a chord and it asks you what the bass is, what the root is, and what the position is. So let's say that I have this chord right here. We have D, E, G, and B. So obviously, first we're going to look at what the bass note is. The lowest note is D, so therefore the bass equals D. Now for the root, we need to put these into thirds in order to figure out what the root is. So we're just going to switch around the order. So the easiest way to do that is to take the note on the bottom and pop it up on top and keep doing that. So if we do that here, we end up with this. And they're on every other note, they're on every line, so therefore this is in root position. So the bottom note is E, so therefore the root is going to be E. And then for the position, the E is the second note, which is one way to think about it. Or you could think the 7th of the chord, which is this note, is on the bottom. So that means that it's going to be third inversion. Alright, so you'll have other questions that say this is the chord you have, and this is what note is in the bass. What is the root and the position? So let's say that it gives you a chord, for example, would be G, B, E, and C. So obviously this is not in order of thirds because B to E is not a third. So we need to figure out the order. So let's switch it around, and let's say that we have G, B, C, and E over here. This is not a third, so we need to switch it around again. So let's try C, E, G, B. Now it is put into thirds. So therefore this C is going to be the root. And the position, let's say that the question said this chord with E in the bass. So if I have this chord, it's put into thirds now. This second note is in the bass, which means that it would be first inversion. Okay, so moving on, let's figure out how to write major, minor 7 chords, because that's going to be a lot of what's on your exam. So for questions like that where it says you have 2 notes, add 2 notes to create a major, minor 7, or it'll say add a note to these 3 notes to make a 7th chord. Here's an example. So let's say that we have C sharp and E are given to us, and it's asking for a major, minor 7. That means that we need a major chord with a minor third on top of it. So remember that with adding notes to chords, it doesn't have to be added to the top always. It can be added to the bottom. So for example, let's say that we were to try and add 1 to the top. We have C sharp, E, G. So remember, we can't change the C sharp and E because that's what was given. So this G, so far this is not a major chord. From C sharp to E is minor, and we can't change that. So therefore this G can't go up there for right now as we're making this major chord, because we need a major on the bottom and a minor on the top. So let's try and add one below. A to C sharp is major, and C sharp to E is minor. Now we have our major chord. Now we need to figure out adding the 7th. So now that we have the major chord on the bottom, we need to add our 7th to the top. So we know that we have to add G. Now let's figure out if that's the right accidental. E to G is minor. So this is a major minor. So this would be your answer. You had to add A and you had to add G. Let's do another example. Let's say that it's asking for minor, minor 7. And this time you get F and C. Now obviously you have to add a note in the middle. The accidental is what matters. So we're going to add a note to the middle, and then we're going to figure out if this is how to make this minor, because it's got to be a minor triad with a minor third on top. So if this is a minor chord, we would need F to A to be minor. So far, F to A flat would be minor. F to A is a major third, so we had to flat it in order to make it minor. Now A flat to C is a major interval, so we have a minor interval below a major interval, so yes, it is minor. And then we would have to add our seventh. So if we add a seventh on top of this, C to E is major and we need a minor 7 on top. So therefore we need to lower this E so that it's C to E flat. So here we have a minor 7. And now there's another option that there was for this. So we had our F and our C was given to us. Let's say that we were to add, we know that we have to add this in the middle. Let's say instead of adding one to the top, we added one to the bottom. So now we have D to F, which is a minor third, F to A, which is a major third. So we know that this is a minor chord. Then we need to check our seventh. A to C is a minor. So this would also be a minor 7. Now don't worry, for the ones that are posted on the exam, there is only one answer. But I wanted to show you the different options that you can go through to make these chords. It's not always that you're adding a note to the top, it's not always that you're adding a note to the bottom. One final example that I want to do is when you have 3 notes of the chord and you just have to add one note to make a seventh. So, for example, let's say that the chord that's given to you is an inversion. So let's say that we have a D here and an F and then a B flat. And it's asking for a major minor 7. So you have to add one note to this to make it a major minor 7. So it's inverted. So we need to put it into thirds to figure out what our chord is. So we have a D, F, and B flat. Let's switch the D to the top. So now we have F, B flat, D. That's still not in root position, so let's switch the F up. So we have B, D, F. Now it's in root position. So if we were to add one on the bottom, the note on the bottom, we would have a G to B flat, which is a minor third. And we need a major chord on the bottom. So that does not work. So let's try adding it to the top. First, let's check our bottom chord. B flat to D is a major third. D to F is a minor third. Now to review our major and minor thirds, we can always look at the keyboard. So I said B flat to D. So we're going to start on this B flat here, and you're going to count how many half steps it takes to get to D. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 means that it's major, 3 means that it's minor. So that interval was major. Now D to F, we're going to count the half steps. 1, 2, 3. That was only 3, so therefore it's going to be minor. Now we need to figure out the right accidental for our final note that we're adding, because now we know that we have major here, minor here, so that's a major triad, which is good. Now we need to add a minor 7th. So F to A. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a major, and we need it to be minor. So we need to lower the A. So let's see if that's 3 half steps now. 1, 2, 3. So the answer for this would be that we added an A flat in order to make it a major minor 7. I hope that these help with your exam, and email me if you have any questions. One last thing I want to make sure that you know is make sure that you know that this dominant seventh is always going to be a major minor 7. It's going to ask you questions. What would the dominant seventh be in a certain key? Make sure that when you're building a dominant seventh, it's always a major minor 7. Good luck!